Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. I have two really simple no-sew pillowcase DIYs using placemats. Let's get on with these projects. For the first pillow, I will be using two of these tapestry style placemats. They came from the Dollar Tree. These are really cute in that pumpkin design. They have various types of designs at the Dollar Tree. This is the one that caught my eye. I instantly thought of making a pillow once I saw these because they are just super cute. Now, if you wanted to, you can use two different patterns if you wanted one side to have a different look, but I chose to use the same identical design. So this is super easy peasy. It takes very little time to do. All you have to do is face your placemats the right side together, meaning the front sides of the placemats. Make sure that they are facing each other and make sure that you have it lined up pretty good. Some of these tapestry placemats are made a little bit different in size, so you will see a little bit where different areas might be a little bit longer. But that's not a big deal. You can easily trim it down with a pair of scissors. Now you just want to take your hot glue and run a nice bead of hot glue all along the borders. Don't forget to leave an opening where you can insert some stuffing. Now all I did was use an old pillow, just saved it and just used the stuffing that was inside. So here you'll want to just leave a slight bit of an opening. I took this stuffing and I separated it as much as I could, just making sure that you get into all the corners because the corners are a little bit rounded because of how it was hot glued together. So you'll want to take something that's a little bit more pointed. There I was using a paintbrush, as you can see on the right side, and I used that to kind of poke the corners out so that you have a slight point. It's not going to be perfect because this tapestry placemat was a little bit thick. It was hard to push that corner out, the corners out, because there was too much fabric that was collected in the corners. Now, if you were to use thinner material, that would be a lot easier. In hindsight, I could have also cut notches to the inside before flipping it back out, and that might have helped to make it easier to poke out those corners. But no big deal. It still looked good in the end. Here I was just continuing to add as much of this pillow stuffing as this needed. Now you can continue adding if you want yours to be more fluffier or fuller. I wanted mine to just be a nice, normal, medium-sized pillow, so I just kept going until I was happy with how it looked and felt. You can also continue to adjust, the stuffing once you have everything closed up, because you can easily fluff out your pillows just by tossing it around and moving the stuffing along to the corners as needed. So here I just took my hot glue, and you'll want to make sure that you fold down your edges because that it's going to have that raw edge and you want to have more of a cleaner finish. Now, if you don't want to use hot glue, there's always such a thing called Fabri-Tac, I believe. It's basically a glue for fabric and it withstands washing and things like that. And I've used that product in the past when I used to make a lot more fabric type material or fabric type DIYs or projects. And it does work really well. But I decided to just go with hot glue because this is a thick material and the hot glue won't really be seen. And I'm not really planning on using this, to the point of where it's going to need to be washed. So it's more for decorative purposes. So I wasn't too concerned about, whether it's going to be cleaned or not. But here it is. I think it came out super cute. Moving on to the second pillow of this video, I took another set of placemats, and these were from Hobby Lobby. I believe I got it last year during their end of season clearance. I think it was 75% off if I'm not mistaken. But I really liked it because I'm drawn to this style with the grain sack stripe or flower sack stripe, however you want to call it. But I really love that look. It looks very French country to me, and I'm really liking that look. I've always liked French country style. So I've had this placemat in my stash for quite some time, and I decided to finally use it up. So I'm making another pillow, as I mentioned, and taking this bag from Dollar Tree. It's one of their canvas reusable bags. It's not really canvas, I don't think. It's a very thin material, but I'm going to use it as if it were drop cloth. So here I'm just measuring out the width of how I wanted the strips to be. I wanted them to all be the same size. So this is where this ruler came in handy. Typically, I like to just sort of eyeball things, but I guess I was just trying to see if I can go for more precise measurements. So I did cut a couple slits on this fabric. It was super easy to tear, and I like that torn fabric look. Just gives it more rusticness and makes it look more organic, if you will. So like I said, I just cut off like little slits on this fabric and just tore it down. It was super easy to do. So here I'm just sort of lining it up along this green sack fabric placemat and just trying to gauge where I might want to add these pieces of fabrics to. So here I was going for like little pockets to insert like stems. So this is essentially going to be a pillow with floral stem holder. I'm not sure how to, word it, but you can call it whatever you want, but it's basically going to hold like 3 floral stems. So I was trying to create pockets for those stems to go into, and this is where I was just trying to gauge the space between each of the pockets, making sure that I had equal spacing in between and on either side. So taking my hot glue, I just ran a bead of hot glue to the side corner and just folded it over. Then it's going to have that raw hem or that raw edge where it frayed. And I do like that look. I probably would have favored more of the look if it were on each side of the, the pockets. But the way that I folded this, it didn't allow for the fraying to be visible on the other side. So that's fine with me. It still, looks fine. So basically I just took the hot glue and just glued all my pieces in half, just making sure that you don't glue it completely shut down the middle. Now, if you find that some of your hot glue got to the center of your stem holder, you just want to take like something long and like I did with a paintbrush and just stick it down the middle, making sure that you separate your fabric pieces so that they don't, adhere to each other. Next, I was trying to measure out the length of each of these pockets. So I was trying to gauge whether I wanted this to be long, from very high up to the bottom, or if I wanted it to just cover like the center striping. Eventually, I decided on more of a longer strip. So I just cut enough of the fabric off that I needed to. Now you also want to test out the space of your pocket, making sure that your opening is wide enough to hold a stem. Now, stems are typically very thin if you're just using one stem. So, it doesn't take a whole lot of space to fit into one of these pockets. So but be, aware of the sizing that you do create just in case. So once I had all my pieces glued and I had decided on the spacing, it was time to glue these pieces of pockets down onto my pillow. And I decided to use Aleene's tacky glue to attach those pockets. Using a paintbrush, I just brushed it on to my fabric piece and then glued it down and just rubbed it into the fabric. You can also use hot glue if you wanted to. I was trying to avoid the whole bumpy texture that sometimes hot glue gives whenever you know, hot glue anything that's on the thinner side. Like that happens a lot with ribbon and things like that. So sometimes the glue will be bumpy and or visible from the outside, especially with this fabric. It's super thin. So you might see like the lines of the hot glue, which I didn't want to be visible. So I decided to utilize my Aleene's tacky glue instead using a paintbrush. Now you don't have to use a paintbrush, but the reason I did is because my nozzle was clogged, so I always find it a lot easier to just use a paintbrush to spread my tacky glue. So here I just took a piece of this wheat stem and I was just sort of playing around with you know, the design of it all. I just wanted to get a visual of how it was going to look with a stem actually in it. So as you can see here, I did have to trim off some of the excess pieces from the stem, because if you have florals that have like a lot of smaller pieces that are attached to the sides, and obviously you're going to want to trim those off because it's not going to fit into your pocket. You basically want to pick a stem that, for one, has maybe a long stem with taller buds at the top. Like lavender pieces would probably go really nicely in these pockets just because they're more of like a nice singular piece of, you know, floral, with like the florals only at the very top. They don't have like those extra pieces on the sides. But if you wanted to use like different types of florals, you just, you know, trim off the extra pieces. It's not a big deal. But next it was time to attach my two pieces of placemats together. So just as I did with the first project, I am taking some hot glue and basically I'm just gluing the edges. So you don't want to get in too far to the middle because you do want to have space to add your stuffing. So try to stay on the outer parts, you know, where the edges are, you know, the hem, where they folded the hems down. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but, you know, basically just try to stick to the outer edges as far as possible, so that you have more room to add your stuffing into your pillowcase. Now, what I did with the second pillow is I made sure that wherever the bottom of my pillow was going to be is where I was deciding to leave an opening to add my stuffing to, because the reason for that is that's the part that's going to be less visible once you add the last bit of hot glue to actually close up your pillowcase. I should have done that with the first DIY. Hindsight is 20/20, as they say, but I didn't. I didn't realize it until after the fact, and then I was like, oh, I should have made the opening towards the bottom. But it's okay because it still looked good in the end. But this time around, I was like, make sure that you leave the opening at the bottom of the pillowcase so that when I do hot glue everything shut, it's going to be at the bottom and it's, you know, not going to be an eyesore. So just keep that in mind if you decide to recreate these no-sew pillows. So the next step was to add the pillow stuffing, just as I did with the first DIY. Just going to want to, you know, separate your fluff, your stuffing, you know, sort of like push it into the corners and just make sure that you have it evenly spaced out in your pillow, because you don't want any like bumpy pillows where some are flatter areas than others. You know, you just want it to be more of an even surface. So that's basically what I did here. And once I was happy with how full this pillow was, then I decided to use some hot glue and just make sure that you fold over the edges, because again, you're not going to want to have like the raw hem per se exposed. You're going to want like a nice clean line. And I did use these mini clamps that I got from Dollar Tree just to help keep it shut into place, since folding it down does create more of a thicker banding, and adding a little bit pressure with the help of clamps does help to ensure that your glue attaches, you know, that your pillowcases attaches and really adheres. So that's the reason for those clamps. So this DIY is almost done. I just decided to take my stems that I cut down and just insert them into these little pockets just to get a nice visual of the final look. Again, you can vary up the types of florals that you choose to add to your pillow. Since it is fall, I decided to use these fall themed flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. But again, I think lavender would look really nice in these pockets. I'll probably change them out after the season, but for now, for the sake of the season, I think it looks fine. So I was looking at this pillow and I was thinking if I needed to add anything else to it. The bottom parts of those pockets have a raw hem or a raw edge, and just like the top of the pockets do as well. But I decided that I was going to add one final touch, which is to use like this ribbon from, it's like a Martha Stewart ribbon that I've had forever, and decided to cut just small strips and cover the raw edges at the bottom. I could have done the same for the top, but I felt like it looked fine the way it was. So that was pretty much it for that second pillow. Let's take a final look at both of these DIYs.